Hey guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, an entitled neighbor Karen feels entitled to my brand new house and demands that I give it to her son. I soon pull the Uno reverse card and get revenge. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the stories. Entitled people are everywhere, especially in these times, but I've never expected someone to be so entitled and with no shame. So basically, I have a pretty decent culinary background for my age. I was in culinary school and had been working in various restaurants since I was 16. In my mid-20s, I landed a sweet gig as a head chef, and a few years later, I was able to afford my house. It was not some big fancy house, but it was decent, especially for someone my age. The yard was nice and big, and although it was not the prettiest when I bought it, I knew with some yard work it could be really great. The lady that lived here before me had bought the house in the 70s and it was built in the late 60s, so no one had lived here before her. She did keep the house maintained, and ever since it was clean and tidy, but never really did any renovations. The wallpaper and trimmings were very much giving 1970s vibes. It was still beautiful though, regardless, and I was excited to do a little bit of remodeling to make the house into my own. So the summer comes around. I moved in about 3 weeks before summer officially started, and I start with the yard work first because honestly, that was the easiest for me to do. I knew it would also be the fastest, so on one weekend I'm in the front yard with a bunch of supplies and stuff to fix up the yard. I had everything from bags of soil, some bricks, to even a new apple tree. Although I was excited, this is the first time I would come across my demon neighbor we will call Karen. The lady that lived here before me also seemed well loved, so I guess it would make sense that people see work being done to the house and are curious about it. But this Karen was entitled. Apparently she had lived in the neighborhood for quite some time. I was finishing up the garden beds and placing some bricks around them when Karen walks up my driveway. At first I thought she was gonna be just a new neighbor introducing themselves or something. I was wrong. Without even introducing herself, she begins asking me if I'm the new owner of the house. Karen, so you're the one that bought this house? Me, yes ma'am, I'm the new owner. Karen, did you know Miss Dorothy? Which was the name of the lady who lived here before me. Me, personally? No, I just met her a couple of times when I was signing papers. You know, this is one of the most beautiful houses on the block. My son grew up on this street and Miss Dorothy always let him play in the yard. Me, starting to get a weird feeling about Karen. Oh well, that sounds extremely kind of her. She seemed pleasant from the few times I met her. Karen, yes, my son really wanted to live in this house one day. Me, oh, well I'm sure there's another house for him somewhere. There seems to be a lot of nice houses in this part of town. Karen, are you going to live here long term? I bet you're just flipping it. That's a shame. My son would really have taken care of this house. At this point, I start becoming pretty irritated and start getting straight to the point with her. Me, actually, I'm doing some renovations so I can move my girlfriend in, but thanks for your assumptions. If you don't mind though, I have work to do. Karen then scoffs and stomps back off to her house. The whole thing was weird. If her son wanted the house so bad, why didn't he buy it? Did she think just because she was a neighbor to this lady that they were entitled to the house somehow? But anyways, a couple of days passed and I did not hear anything more from Karen. The upgrades and renovation plans were coming along nicely and the front yard was almost done. The only thing I had left to do was repaint the wooden fence around it. So I start doing that, and sure enough, here comes Karen and her son, who immediately start bashing me for no reason. Karen's son, what? That's the guy who bought the house? An immigrant? And by the way, I'm not an immigrant, but I am of Hispanic descent. Regardless, even if I was an immigrant, what would it matter? I don't say anything to them and just ignore them. I really don't want to deal with Karen, let alone her son. Karen, as they are walking in front of my house down the sidewalk, yeah, I bet Dorothy just felt so bad for him. You know, in his country, a shack is considered a nice place. I didn't say anything to them because they were already walking away, and like I said, I don't want to deal with them. Except later on I would deal with them because I spotted Karen's son doing a drug deal in broad daylight. I start talking to my next door neighbor, who by the way was extremely friendly and the complete opposite of Karen. I told her that I noticed Karen's son doing a drug deal in the middle of the day. She said that a few neighbors had actually suspected he was drug dealing and the mom was basically covering it up. So guess what I did? I installed security cameras and pointed one across the street towards Karen's house. And guess who got footage of Karen's son doing drug deals? Yep, that was me. So guess who turned in the footage to the police? Yep, once again, me. The son got arrested for drug possession, narcotic sales, and the mother also got arrested for basically covering up her son's bad behavior because she knew about it the whole time. Why is it always the people doing the dirtiest things that have something bad to say about us immigrants? And why are they so damn entitled? And yeah guys, if you have watched until here, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe post some star emojis in the comments if you enjoy my content. Lately it seems like that YouTube once again puts a big emphasis on the amount of likes and comments you get, so just fire away, I really appreciate it. Anyway, the next one is titled Airplane Seat Karen. I fly somewhat often for work, sometimes a few times a month. I'm usually heading to New York City and usually flying Delta. My company has a promotion with Delta where we can get status fairly quickly as a perk for joining the company, so I go from nothing to silver and finally gold pretty quickly. My flight home out of LGA gets delayed mostly because every flight leaving LGA gets delayed. So then I hear the announcement that they are likely not going to have a crew to man the flight until 9 PM. It is about 6, so I head off to find some crappy airport food. And then, just as my food is arriving, I catch an announcement for final boarding for my flight. Great, I abandoned my table, paid for dinner, had not received it yet, and yeet off to the gate. It turns out I'm not the only one who was confused, but they get us on a bus to take us out to the plane. So with my status I often get free upgrades, which is cool as hell. And on this flight I got what I refer to as first class, the little single seat in the very front of first class, good old A1. Or 1A, so I board and there's a woman in my seat. Glass of wine in hand. Me, I think you're in my seat, my boarding pass says 1A. Karen, whoops, you are not here, you can have my seat. I knew how this was going to go. Me, no worries, which of the other first class seats is yours? Karen, oh, it's not, I was in 22B. So on these little regional jets, 22B is usually in the aisle and in the very back right next to the restroom. Me, okay, I'm gonna want my seat back then. Karen, I'm already buckled in, it's a short flight. Be a dear, will ya? She doesn't know I got the upgrade for free and that's besides the point. Me, sorry no, I would like my seat. Karen, don't be annoying, or something like that, I cannot remember. I'm not moving. Me, just take the free drink and head back to your seat, you're holding up everyone else boarding. Just take the seat in the back, you're holding up everyone else boarding. I tell the flight attendant and he just sighs like he deals with this crap all the time and then tells her to move to her assigned seat or they will have to remove her from the plane. So then she moves while grumbling the whole time and I settle in and have a vodka cran. I see this often enough with other people being picky about seats that are not theirs, but a first for me personally. And the next one is titled Karen in Retail. During high school, I worked as a customer assistance clerk, aka a bagger, at the local grocery store, which was not a bad job. Ask paper or plastic, put groceries in the bag. Don't break the eggs and load groceries into their car. Also bring in a couple of darts, did not pay well, but it was not too hard either. There were only a couple bad things about the job and the first one was the tips. If the customer offered a tip, which they often did, we had to refuse it because of company's strict no tipping policy. Take a tip and then get fired. The weird thing was people got offended when you refused to take their tip. The second bad part was a regular customer we will call Karen and she was a choosing beggar. She would try to use expired coupons and wanted us to price match a competitor's sale flyer from several weeks ago. The manager then gets called. She would eat cherries and grapes as she went through the store and then pay by weight for what was left in the package. We would catch her and she would deny it. Karen would overload her cart to the point that it damaged products which she would then want the item discounted or for free. The manager then gets called. She would watch us bag her groceries like a postmenopausal hawk and tell us how to do our jobs. Meat needs to be double bagged. Don't put all those cans in one bag. Don't crush my potato chips. Karen, I completed the putting crap in a bag course when I got hired. I got this. On this particular day, my friend Tony got stuck bagging her groceries. She switched from paper to plastic after he had bagged half her groceries. He goes back and rebags her groceries. He had to put everything in a different cart because the one he picked did not look clean enough. The cashier gives her the total and she loses her mind. The prices are too damn high and the store is trying to rob her. She demands to know why she didn't get a double coupon. The cashier explains that Double Coupon Tuesday is in fact only on Tuesday, not on Thursday. Apparently Karen could not make it on Tuesday, so we should give her double coupon values on Thursday. Manager gets called again. Manager explains the complicated double coupon Tuesday is in fact only on Tuesday, not on Thursday, policy to Karen. Karen says, "F it, I don't want any of it." At this point, the manager just surrenders, gives her double coupon value just to get her out of the store. The cashier is pissed and Tony is pissed too. The customers in line behind Karen are pissed as well. As Tony is putting her groceries in her car, Karen says to Tony, "Be careful loading my groceries. And don't be expecting a tip from me." Tony says, "Company policy prohibits us from taking tips anyway." Tony should have stopped there, but he didn't. He then says, "Besides, what would I do with your last dollar?" Karen begins to boil. She says she's going to go inside and tell the manager that he demanded a tip. Karen waddles off angrily. Now, Tony could have gone inside and spoken to the manager. Manager might have believed him, especially since the manager knew Tony was a good guy and that Karen was a total wackadoodle. Instead though, Tony said, "F it." Karen storms in and grabs the manager. And we all watch through the big windows as Tony starts slamming bag after bag into the trunk of her rusted-ass Cadillac sedan DeVille while cussing like a drunken Norwegian. Food is flying everywhere, sodas are exploding. Boxes are ripping open, and the eggs… Oh dear lord, the eggs! Karen for once is speechless. The manager is speechless as well, and hell, everyone is speechless. Tony walks in, takes off his apron and hands it to the manager. He turns to Karen and says, "Have a nice day. Come again soon." And then he flips her the bird and walks out into retail history. And the next one is titled, "They Told Me to Get Revenge." This happened to a friend of mine years ago and me as well, but he did the revenge. I lived in a small village by the sea. Most people had a small boat with an outboard motor. People were not poor but far from rich. Someone began stealing gas from the boats on multiple occasions. Lots of people got livid. They lost their gas, of course, but even worse was that several ran out of gas far from shore, potentially very dangerous. A friend of mine went to the local police and got to talk to the chief of police and got the following advice. Fill a can with gas, mix it with sugar and put the can in your boat. My friend got a bit concerned and asked if this was illegal and could get him in trouble. It's not illegal to mix sugar and gas, it's your gas. If someone steals it, it's no problem of yours. If the thief files a complaint, you can be rest assured that I will follow it up regarding all the thefts. And so he did. A nice brand new can filled to the brim with gas and lots of sugar, and the can was gone the day after. Fast forward a week, the local engine repair shop got a pretty new 120 horsepower engine in for repair. As I said, it's a small village, so after checking up on the engine, it was easy for the mechanic to put 2 and 2 together. The mechanic told the customer that the engine was beyond repair, a lie I guess, and that the customer should contact the police because this was sabotage. The police got no complaint. Of course, the story went viral in the small community. The thief was until then a well-respected person. The moving van showed up a few months later. And the next one is titled, "Karen Called the Cops on Me." So I moved into a nice little neighborhood with my husband and my soon-to-be newborn. One night my husband was walking our corgi puppy and the neighbor from across came outside. The corgi puppy runs over to her and the woman shrieks and runs inside. Husband comes out later without the puppy and she cusses him out, screams at him. He tries to apologize but she keeps screaming. A few days later, a humane officer comes to my door, wakes my newborn up and tells me he will give me a fine for allowing my dog to charge our neighbor if it happens again. I guess he was under the impression this happened more than one time. He said my neighbor was terrified for her safety. I told him I have a 7-pound corgi puppy, literally the least terrifying animal on earth. Only second to my cat Disney. Anyway, she also yells at our other neighbor who mows the vacant lot beside her anytime he gets close to her grass, which gets pretty tall. They've gotten into screaming matches and she even called the cops on him multiple times, never ending in her favor. I found an online website that anonymously sends people glitter bomb holiday and Christmas cards, so when you open it, it shoots glitter everywhere. Like a month goes by and I was wondering if this website just took my money or if she just was not gonna say anything about it. I kid you not, a cop comes to my door, asks to come inside and then busts out laughing, explaining he's here over a glitter Christmas card. He tells me I made his day and that was the funniest call he's ever ran, and then leaves. It was totally legal and great petty revenge. Edit, she also kidnapped my cat, but that's a story for a different day. We are cool now, surprisingly. She even gifted me some edibles. I was a bit suspicious they were poisoned or something as revenge for the card, but they were fantastic and we talk on a regular basis now. It turns out she's just a bit socially anxious, so that's why she's gotten into it with a lot of the neighbors, but she is actually a really nice person under the Karen exterior. I'll post a screenshot on my profile for those who think I'm lying. Edit again. Dude, my husband let the dog off the leash one time for whatever reasoning he had. I always use a leash. I didn't realize what a gigantic community of leash lovers were on Reddit, but holy damn, slow your roll. As Shaggy would say, it wasn't me. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I'm actually kind of glad in the end that OP made friends with this Karen, because obviously even when someone is an awful neighbor at first, it does not mean that you have to be enemies forever. The next one is titled, It's My Car. I'm not exactly sure this fits the subreddit, but I want to share this story, so here it goes. When I was 18, late 1990s, I had a silver AMC Spurt with powder blue interior. I did not know anything about cars, but it was a sexy little oil-dribbling thing. It had ball tires that would spin the car 360 if I did not brake cautiously, but I loved it. Until it died unexpected and I had to have it towed to a shop a week before I was to leave the country for 4 months. I was a kid and I did not know cars, and something major was wrong that I don't remember, but I could not afford to fix it. Something like 4 grand to repair. I could not afford it and was leaving the country for a while anyway. The mechanic said I could just leave it there and they would just deal with it or scrap it if I didn't care. Cool. I no longer have a car, but I am leaving anyway, so who cares? I paid the bill for the work they did and left. When I got home from my many months abroad, I went through a massive stack of mail that included one letter saying the car had been impounded, another that it had been auctioned off, and after the auction date, several parking tickets that amounted to about $400. I called the city and asked how I could be liable for parking tickets after the car was auctioned to a new owner. They said it was still in my name. The new owner had not changed the title, it was my responsibility. I was furious, but what could I do? The title was in my name and they could not even give me the name of the person who bought it. I had to pay or it would be sent to collections. So I am walking to my friend's apartment a block away from my old place, and right across the street from her building I see my car. I still have keys, so I go home and frantically grab them and go back. I get into the car and start pulling all the papers from the glove box and then sort through them looking for the new owner's name. Just then 2 guys run up screaming that I am in their car and what the hell do I think I'm doing? I say, you bought it from an auction and did not change the title. You owe me $400 for the parking tickets in my name. They insist they don't owe me anything. Not my fault, you left it in your name. I smile and calmly start the engine and say, okay then, it's in my name, it's legally mine, and drive away. Thanks for repairing the engine. Edit for clarification, I was young and naive. I could not afford to have the car towed outside the city to the house of friends or family. Remember, I was leaving the country for 4 months. There was nowhere off the street in the city to leave it, let alone have it repaired. The mechanic was kind and said he would take it off my hands, which was a relief. But remember the young and naive thing? Yeah, I handed him the title and thought that was all I had to do. The mechanic apparently pushed the car onto the street from where it was impounded. It was then auctioned off by the city. The city gave the title to the new owner. The parking tickets were racked up by the new owner. There were dates on all this paperwork that was mailed to me. I did try to find the tickets, had a copy of the bill of sale from the auction, but they still said there was nothing they could do because the buyer did not transfer the title into their name. Back and forth to different government offices, all the while new tickets were being issued. I was annoyed that the city didn't have to transfer the title out of my name when they claimed possession of it, but sold it and gave the buyer the title, the same one I handed the mechanic. So it was late last night when I recalled this story and decided to share it on Reddit, but here is a bit that I left out. When I got into the car and checked the paperwork in the glove box, I found the title. Still in my name, they had not even signed it. Also in the glove box was their bill of sale from the auction. They were clearly young and naive too. Edit number 2. What happened after? Never heard from them again. I had the car for another year or 2, put new tires on it and sold it properly before another trip abroad. And you better believe it, I had them sign the title in front of me and I filed the sale with the DMV that day, giving them I think a week to file or be fined.